2018, but like, that's just knowing fire department's there. I live on Clover there, you know, but I don't know, they can do it. They're not gonna listen anyway. That's fine.
So we all good, Katrina? All right. And I will call the meeting to order. It's close enough to 7. First thing we should do is amend the agenda. Colleague wants us to discuss his case to hopefully get a rehearing next meeting, so I'll just add that to the end. With that, our first applicant is Hamlin. In the interest of full disclosure, I work with Lynn on a nonprofit, so I don't think it will change my opinion, but if anyone would like, I will sit out. All right. And in that case, I will waive the formal reading of the public notices that was posted in the Sentinel. Is everyone familiar with the property? Yep. All right, then if you two could come up and give us a summary of what you're doing.
Good evening. Thank you very much for coming in to hear our application on a nice evening. We wait a long time for these evenings. Kind of tough to be inside sometimes. I'm Doug Hamlin. In Honeyway Falls, I'm better known as Lynn Minderman's husband, which will be a little clearer in a moment.
I hope.
We live at 1123 West Bloomfield Road, which is in a very tight little triangle between West Bloomfield Road and Taylor Road. It's a small house that we've lived there for 8 years. Before that, we had lived in Eastern New York. Previous to that, Lynn's Honeyway Falls connection had been as a teacher and professional developer at Honeyway Falls line of schools. I decided to accept a job in the eastern part of the state and had all the good luck that she agreed to join me. So we lived there for a
Didn't
long
know
time.
this part, just not.
And when it was time to leave, and I said to her, well, I made the last decision of where to go. Your turn. And she said, without hesitation, I want to go back to where I never wanted to leave, Honeyway Falls. So here we are. And it is probably appropriate that we chose to settle in the house at 1123, and that is the original Mendon District 3 schoolhouse.
11.
Schoolhouse 11, District 11 schoolhouse, sorry. We have done some changes in it in the interior, and what we'd like to do now actually came about by virtue of COVID. When we didn't go anywhere and we sat around at home a lot, we have a gorgeous horse farm as a neighbor with a gorgeous barn, and we would sit in the evenings and enjoy it, and then finally decided, why do we want to look at a driveway and a garage doors when we could have grass, a much nicer approach if we could make some changes. So what we want to do is relocate the entrance to the garage. Actually, our architect, who is our neighbor, Chris Lopez, designed the project and actually suggested that we extend the garage in order to create and change living space, repurpose the living space, the former garage. But let me respond to the 5 areas of the application, and then we can discuss those. Or you please stop me at any time if you have a question. So the first area is, what will our project change the character of the locality? We appreciate and enjoy the locality we live in. We have no desire to change its character. And we feel since moving there, we've done our share to enhance an already lovely locale. The proposed change will maintain or enhance the nature of our home in every way, except that it'll extend the western end of the house by 24 feet and change the garage doors to face the west. Before commencing with this planning, we met with our immediate neighbors to our west and across the street and got their support and encouragement to proceed. The issue is that our house, as many of the houses on Taylor Road, does not comply with a 60-foot setback. In fact, from West Bloomfield Road, west on Taylor Road to Chamberlain Road, there are currently 17 homes. It's apparent that 10 of these homes, including ours, don't meet the 60-foot setback requirement, which is perhaps typical in an area of older homes. So what we're asking for is a variance on that setback. Alternative methods to achieve what we wish to do. We don't really see a need to achieve what we want to do, given the size of the lot that we're on. The alternative we had looked into was, constructing a detached garage. We expect, however, that structure would be required to comply with setbacks. And if that being the case, it would be located right in the middle of the triangle that is our lot. So that wouldn't work out. And it would create, if we did choose it, that would create a wholly different response to changing the character of the locality. So really, we don't see an alternative to what we would like to do.
Had you considered, instead of hanging it off the west side of the building, go off the south side of the building? It would still be over the setback, but it would be a much smaller.
Well, hanging the garage,
Yeah, it's still attached.
yes, but the first thing we want to acquire is opening up the space. We want to get rid of driveway, hard pack, and parking area. Put in green space, change the aspect of the lot, and open up the view to the west. So putting it south and facing west would work, except that we would be in a little cubicle, see right in the back of our building. Our application, okay, all right. Our application is for a variance to allow a setback of 30 feet from the Taylor Road right of way for the garage extension. Currently, the southeast corner of the house is set back from West Bloomfield Road right of way by 15 feet. The northeast corner is set back approximately 21 feet from Taylor Road right of way, and the current northwest corner of the house is set back approximately 27 feet from the Taylor Road right of way. The new furthest northwest corner would set back approximately 30 feet from the right of way, so we're applying for a 30-foot variance. If this application is approved, we feel the project will, and we know the project will include the removal of approximately 1,700 square feet of existing driveway and parking hard pack to be replaced by green space, lawn and garden, which we offer as a positive change to the overall physical and environmental of the area. The garage will match the current design and appearance of the existing structure. Self-created difficulty. This is kind of a hard one to answer. It's all a hard self-created difficulty, given the unique size and shape of the lot the house sits on. We find really no alternatives to accomplishing this project. But with that in mind, I suspect that the honest thought about the proposed project is the difficulties associated with it will be resolved through careful planning and expert design. So that's our proposal in our application. And we'd be more than happy to talk it over.
I think you said one of your neighbors is the architect.
Yeah, Chris
Which-
Lopez,
Which direction from the house?
directly west,
So that's the horse farm.
the horse farm.
All right. and also coincidentally, the neighbor most impacted.
Absolutely.
You said it was a former schoolhouse. Do you know?
1821, school
1821?
number 11, Mendon.
Well, before we had a zoning code.
But it's had at least 3 editions, starting in the 50s and probably going through the late 80s, early 90s. So it was under a zoning code at some point. I don't have that
I
record.
was looking through town records and the oldest reference I could find was 1967,
Okay,
which at that point.
was it a garage?
I don't know. It was a modification, so it might have been a
Okay.
garage.
All right. So I expect the garage, I just expect the garage, it's currently there was the last modification.
Danny, there are people who come and knock on the door and they'd like to see the basement with all the trees are the rafters.
Anybody else have any questions?
No.
All right, and if there are no further questions, I think you did a good job of answering the 5 questions, so I will waive us formally asking them. In fact, I think that was a good example. Most people don't directly point to that when they talk. So that's neither here nor there. Anyone in the public want to comment? Does not look like it. Katrina, all right.
So thanks to Katrina and Corey for that. They essentially said, these are what you need to address. So I'm sure you do.
Mhm. So with that, a motion to close public hearing? And a second? All right, all in favor?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and this public hearing is closed. You're welcome to stick around. We will probably discuss this and decide later or not, depending on how the details play out. Or you can head home and they'll call you when the decision is made.
Call it.
All right.
Wait.
It'll be like 10 minutes.
You want us until you're done?
You want to, yeah.
Thank you, we'll wait.
Good, go outside. It's good.
Right here.
Thank you, Danny.
So with that, our next applicant is Mr. Connolly. I will also waive the formal reading as it was published in the Sentinel. Everyone familiar with the property?
Yes.
All right, then if Mr. Connolly could give us a summary of what he's doing, and then I'm sure we'll have some
Well,
questions.
Was your name Marks?
Yes.
Okay, so I have to let you know that I'm tangentially involved with their law firm on East Bluff Drive with another issue, if that matters.
Yeah, that is true. I know Jim.
The beard threw me off. I would have recognized you right away, but the beard's new.
But Jim is, just to be clear, Jim is not a client of
Correct.
our firm, so there's no conflict.
Always good to know.
So, my appearance in front of you is, I think, a little different than what you're used to, because all I'm looking for is a change of use approval. What I'm asking to do is already allowed by the community business zoning. It is because when they built our property, we conflict on 2 setbacks. One setback is to a river, so that essentially doesn't really affect anybody. That doesn't comply. The other one is backs up to a commercial parking lot who's given me their approval all day long. And, I can show you text. He said he'd write a letter, but he didn't write the letter. You know how that goes. The setback to the other side, I own that property.
And that's
So-
the one to the west.
That is to the west. Yep, I own that property. So we have Rondequoit Creek is a conflict. Clemenza's Pizza is a conflict. And the one to the west, I think, is just a couple of feet short. So I'm exploring the possibilities of changing this 2,000-ish square foot retail space to a residence, which my wife and I would reside in a couple days a week and in the winter. I own the property outright, but due to other circumstances, it's not really a very sellable property. But I would like to make it useful because it's been sitting there empty since the last owner of the pet store went out of business, and Mendon does not have much demand for commercial property or retail. So is it a big deal? I don't really feel like it's a big deal, but certainly I'm here in front of you guys, so you guys can ask all the questions you need to ask me.
So you're not changing the footprint at all.
No, I am not going to touch the footprint's not changing. The framing is not changing. The foundation and the roof are not changing. Windows will move, doors will move, Siding will be replaced, but the footprint will be unchanged. And I'm hoping to, you know, the roof's brand new. I'm hoping to salvage as much of the framing as we possibly can.
Is there any other residences in that hamlet?
All of the property to my east is all residences. And then the property that I own to the west is a storage building and then 2 apartments
In the house.
in the house, yep. So it's, I mean, the whole neighborhood, with the exception of the vet and my property, is residences. And I want to be clear that if I do get the approval tonight, that doesn't lock me into having to do that, right? Because I am very much in the exploratory phase.
So you would get the approval to make the change, you're
If I
not
want.
required to make the change.
I am required.
You're
to-
not.
Okay,
required.
great,
It's
perfect.
it's an option.
Yeah, awesome. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure. And I don't want to waste anybody's time. Does anybody have any questions for me on the property?
I haven't been to the property recently, but the pavement for the parking lot looks like it comes essentially right up to your building.
It does, which obviously would be part of our change because we don't want to have a parking lot for a front yard.
But that is the current condition.
It is all parking lot. It is the cottage's favorite parking lot in town.
And about how long have you owned the building?
2004-ish. So I bought the property to the west in 4. I think I bought this property in 5.
Right. Anybody else have any questions on this one? Okay, then between your answers and documentation, I think you've covered the 5 questions we're required to ask. So I'll waive the formal asking of those. Any public comment from anyone? All right, then motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, guys
All right.
and gal.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any opposed? And with that, we are on to the minutes. These were emailed out, so we have had an opportunity to look through them.
Motion approved minutes.
All right.
Second.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved, which brings us back to Hamlin. Are we ready to move on this tonight? Or do you- all right. I wrote up a draft determination. Presumably we'll get someone to move in a second. With the request from Doug Hamlin, I would say approved. Whereas Doug Hamlin, the property owner, appeared to today's date. The existing residence has a front setback of approximately 15 feet, at the point closest to the property line. Section 260-106 of the zoning code states RA1 is a front setback of 60 feet. The applicant is requesting a front setback of approximately 30 feet for the new garage. A building permit was issued around November 14th, 1967 for modification to the building that already existed. And this is a non-conforming structure. Section 260-21 requires approval for any changes. The applicant intends to add a garage to their existing residence, with the existing garage as living space. Proposed addition would not meet setback, but would exceed by a lesser amount than the existing structure. Does anyone else, does anything you should add to this? Anything should be changed? No. All right. No members of the public commented. We do have notes back from the county dated yesterday. All of that onto the actual 5 points. I would say it cannot be achieved by the feasible means as the existing structure is non-conforming on setback. Does that sound good to everyone? I am seeing nods. I would say it is substantial as it's approximately half the setback.
Fair.
I would say it is not an adverse physical or environmental impact. Seeing more nods. Not have a undesirable change, as it doesn't encroach any more than the existing. And I could see self-created either way. I'm inclined to say it is not because the structure, the core structure predates the zoning. And therefore it's the zoning that changed, but happy to listen to arguments.
I always call these self-created because. they
You're
want-
adding a
they
structure
want-
to it, yeah.
I mean,
It's self-created.
All right, then we go with self-created. Type 2 under seeker. I did put a potential condition down. I don't see the need for it. Then in that case, motion to approve this.
So-
So that was a yes.
Second.
Oh, second from Maxim. All right. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, then you have your approval.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, we are back to Connolly. Everyone feel like acting on this one tonight as well?
Sure.
All right. Then I have a draft determination, presumably we get a motion in a second, that the variance requested by James Connolly be approved. James Connolly, the property owner here tonight.
You see more of us.
The applicant intends to remodel the existing space into residential use with no change to the building's footprint. The code enforcement officer submitted a memo dated May 10th, offering his view on the situation and it being an approved use. Section 26106 of the code states the business district has a side setback of 30 feet and a rear of 30 feet. The applicant is requesting approximately 3.8 and 4.4 respectively. Non-conforming structure, so he has to come see us. Property has a petroleum contamination, and as such, the applicant believes it is unsaleable. A building permit was issued around February 20th, 1985 for a sign indicating the building already existed then. Arundel Creek is directly to the east, and the neighborhood is well developed, mixture of commercial and residential. Anyone see anything to be changed in that, added in that? All right, not seeing anything to add.
Is there any way we can strike the petroleum from the public record?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't
That was
Okay.
Conversational more than it was.
Fair enough, it was in the documentation, so I threw it in. We
Yep,
can-
no,
we
I
can
just
scratch
wanted to
that.
understand where I'm coming from.
Everyone else good with scratching that? All right. No members of the public commented. And this one, yeah, we did not receive comments, but we have a previous agreement with the county. So we technically don't need them. I would say it cannot be achieved, but other feasible means as rebuilding to match setbacks is not practical. I would say it is substantial as it's approximately 87% reduction.
Fair.
That would not have an adverse physical or environmental impact. The renovations of an existing structure. Not have an undesirable change in the neighborhood as is permitted. And again, I'm inclined to say it was not self-created as the building was not performing setbacks when purchased, but anyway, I'm happy to go the other way.
This is the first one that I totally agree on that it's not, like, that was built there.
I've been trying to rent it too, and it's just not rentable property.
Any objections to not self-created because, well, it was that way originally? Type 2 under seeker, I see no need for conditions, so I didn't draft any. So with that, a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor of approving? Any opposed? All right, then we have a second approval.
Sorry?
Is that a flood zone?
It is, yeah. No, I don't have a mortgage on the property, so I don't have to have insurance.
Yeah, I was trying to, as the lender, I would say, just make sure you understand the difference in insurance. When you go to residential flood, it's a pain in the neck.
Yeah, so I had that problem at another property too. But since I don't have a mortgage, I don't really have to deal with it. And I know it's not gonna flood. I know exactly property. I owned it for a long
Just if
time.
you ever sell it as residence or something.
Yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
It's a pain in the neck.
We pay flood insurance for 7 square feet. Like, it's the steps to the deck.
So we do have a letter from Mr. Colley, who, the last time we met and talked about him, we tabled. All right,
Kelly.
I'm sure I pronounced it wrong. I would apologize to him if he was here, but in any case, we did table the rehearing after the last meeting on the idea he would go before the planning board. He is now amended, adjusted, whatever you want to call his request, from 12 horses to 6, and would like us to hear him at the next meeting. So we would need a motion to, whatever the proper phraseology is for on table, to schedule for next meeting.
Place it back on the agenda.
How do we retract kicking it up to planning board though, for the special use permit?
Well, we didn't do that. All we did is table it.
We just tabled
The
it.
assumption was that planning would then pick it up.
Okay,
They didn't, no reason we couldn't disregard that and just pick it up, put it back on our agenda for the next meeting. Is that?
That's correct, yep. And planning board's their own entity, so you have no
We
control
can't make
over.
them do anything.
yeah, we can't make them look at it.
So is the purpose still to be a boarder or are they gonna be pets? Or do we not know? And you still need the special.
That would definitely be a question to ask him when he's back here. My read of this is it sounds like a no, but that's definitely a question to ask him.
Was there something in the email? He owns more property than originally? was
Yeah,
told?
he's trying to claim that there's more, but he still hasn't added anything to that particular tax ID. Yeah,
Right, but does he own the parcel right next to it?
across the street, the
He owns
one
across
that's
the
like
street.
quarter mile down the road, yeah.
For some reason I was thinking that we talked about owning the parcel adjacent to it.
If he did own it adjacent and he was to merge them, so it's now one lot, that may make it a non-issue for us, or it also may make it a question, he wants 6 horses and he now is a half acre under instead of 5 or whatever it actually would be, which goes to the substantial question. But the question at the moment for tonight is, shall we rehear it next meeting? Or we leave it on the table and not pick it up?
All right, so if we rehear it, then what? We have to take action on 6 horses?
Then we would, well, what we could also do is technically we grant the minimal variance needed. So he can ask for 6 and we could turn around and say, that's too many, we'd like 2 or 4 or whatever. I think Katrina's talked to him. I get the impression he wants an answer for what is the right number. And if we go to 0, hard 0, that's an answer. But if he gets a higher number, I'm sure we'll be happy with that. He's asking for 6. We did agree to rehear. We could, I'm sure, leave it on the table, but it seems polite to at least go through the process and formally approve or deny.
Yeah, I'm probably rehearing it, I'm just trying to understand like. We might be able to get that clarity in rehearing it. So,
Many of the concerns from last time were based on the sheer number of horses and the amount of manure on that lot.
and the
So we
safety
could-
issues crossing the
Right.
street and.
Right, that was, the horse actually, the first meeting was in his management of, was my polite way of saying, you got a lot more on your plate than what you're even thinking about. And his neighbor that came in and talked about the horses crossing, the smell and the traffic. He had more to think about with this than Cowley did, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't read his new manure proposal. But I'd imagine that it still doesn't encompass a containment. It still doesn't have any active plan for spreading it or where he's gonna spread it, if it's gonna be in that field or the one down the street. But yeah, I agree that rather than it floating in limbo, if planning board's not taking action on it, we are the responsible party.
So I moved to take it off the table and place it on our agenda for next week.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and that'll be next week. Think of all the questions. Sorry, yes, 2 weeks. Think of all the questions you want to ask him. He will hopefully be
The
good.
26th.
Yes.
I'm out of town. 26th, so.
That is good to know. But you're welcome to email us questions or whatever you want us to ask on your behalf.
I can't vote for them.
No.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think you, okay. All right. All right.
Barbara was gonna say something.
'Cause I know there was a change there.
They just changed it again.
And then.
They changed it so frequently that I would need to check again. I looked at this literally last month for a different town, and they had a small window open again where boards could meet without having a quorum in person. And it was open for about 2 months, and I just don't remember when it ended.
That's fine. I just want you guys to have a quorum. You need to be.
We need 3 for a quorum. What was your question?
Believe it ends June 8th.
Yeah, and I'd have to look, because they, not only was it possibly only open for a certain period of time, these things have had a history the last 2 years of being extended again. So last time I looked, it literally had changed the day before I looked, so I have to look again.
If you would like, you can zoom in. If you're busy doing other things such as
Probably
like,
not, yeah, I'm gonna be, I have a business meeting in Connecticut, which usually goes till 8:30.
it just makes it more important for the rest of us to,
Right.
if you're not gonna be here, make sure to tell Katrina so we can then confirm it. We need 3.
Maybe I am here. What's next Thursday?
With that being said, I did see the training event, what was it, 3 weeks ago now? I saw 4 of us on the Zoom channel. We got another one of those in a week or 2 if you want to go to that.
We don't get their certificates though.
No.
Well, they
Katrina
should,
doesn't yell at me.
they should mail them out. They did say they were going to.
As long as she doesn't, I don't get a naughty letter about not doing training. Signed from Mr. D, that would be fired because I won't sit on there.
What about that initially proposed one where David was gonna do a presentation sort of thing? It was gonna be like local
My
education.
understanding is that's still under.
It's in the works.
They're still.
Okay.
Last I
Yeah,
heard,
similar.
Brent wanted to talk to David about some details of it, and therefore it's
Politics.
nothing that comes to us yet.
Probably charges $400 an hour.
Whatever. Anyone else have anything to?
No idea what you charge for that.
Anything else to discuss? Then motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn the meeting.
Let's get some sunshine.
Second.
I don't even know who's first and second.
First, second.
Awesome.
All right.
So wound up.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a meeting. You're welcome.